Hi, it's Emily Leiphart of Art from the Heart, and in this video I'm creating twin birthday cards featuring the Sentimental Borders stamp set by Mama Elephant. Before I begin, I want to share a size comparison between the Femme frames dies on the left and the index card dies on the right. I'm not sure if anyone's shown this before, so I thought it would be helpful for you to see these side by side in case you're trying to make a purchase. I'm actually going to mix and match the inner and outer layers for my project, so that's why I thought it would be helpful to share. You can see the difference more clearly when I hold the two scallop frames together, and again when I hold the two stitched frames together. There's not much difference in the length, but there's a bigger difference in the width. What I'm going to do for my cards is use the scalloped frame from Femme frames and the stitched frame from index card. I'm going to use embossing paste on the card base, and I would like more of it to show, so I'm going to use a narrower top panel. When I put the two stitch frames back with their original scallop frames, you can see how little of the background shows behind the front panel and the huge difference when I swap the two frames. I'm going to start by creating custom stencils using the heart and triangle border dies that come with the embellished tag creative cuts. I'm going to create a random pattern to use on opposite corners of my card with embossing paste. I die cut the triangles 3 times, and then I die cut the hearts 3 times in the same pattern. The next thing I do is die cut the card bases using the scalloped frame from Femme Frame's Creative Cuts. You'll see that I end up swapping these out later for a more neutral background, but these were the colors I had in mind for the focus of the backgrounds: purple for the girl and aqua for the boy. Next I bring in the stencils I created. I've cut that long piece in half to separate the two stencils. I use masking tape to hold the card base on my work surface, then position the stencil exactly where I want it. I use Wendy Vecchi's metallic gold embossing paste on the top left and bottom right hand corners of the card. I quickly clean off my palette knife with a baby wipe and prepare to stencil the other card. This time I'm using the triangles and silver metallic embossing paste. So here are the two card bases. I'm going to set these aside to dry while working on the rest of the card. I've die cut 2 of the stitch frames from the index card creative cuts. I used the smooth side of the Tim Holtz watercolor paper since I'll be stamping on it. I'll be using the birthday band from Sentimental Borders and stamping it across the entire panel on an angle. I'm going to hold it down with masking tape so it doesn't move while I stamp. I put my Versamark ink pad down on the border stamp, but I'm not too concerned about covering it completely with ink. I'm going for a look where the stamping and heat embossing will be faded toward the outer edges of the frame. Now it's time to add white embossing powder to the Versamark ink. I'm just pouring the powder over the center of the panel and quickly dumping it off onto a scrap piece of paper. This quick dumping motion allows the powder to thin or fade over the outer edges. I was really amazed that I could read the words so well before and after heat embossing. They'll stand out even more after I watercolor over it. I repeat this process with the second card and get out my Gansai watercolor paints. I absolutely love these paints because they're so easy to use. I love how they're packaged and I love their creamy consistency. I take a wide brush and brush on number 139, the purple color. You can see how bright and gorgeous this color is, and I love the watercolor resist look with these paints. This time I'm using number 50, the pale aqua color. While the watercolor panels are drying, I decide that the paints made the previously chosen card bases look dull. I re-die cut the scallop bases in light gray cardstock. I switched to Dreamweaver's pearlescent embossing paste for the boys card and matte yellow for the girls card. This one got a bit messy on the back of the stencil, but I wasn't too concerned about the transfer. Now I can let both the new card bases dry while I do some coloring. I've die cut the Carnival Cupcakes shapes, also from watercolor cardstock, and I'll be stamping their coordinating images using Ranger Archival ink. The twins will have the same cupcake shape on their cards, but different animals. The girl will have a bunny and the boy will have a bear. When these are done, I can start watercoloring. I don't remember what colors I used, but I do love how these Gansai paints can be wet again after they've dried, and the intensity lightened by adding more water. I used more saturated colors on the base of the boy's cupcake, but then really watered down blues, plus the bluish gold at the top of the cupcake. Once the paints have completely dried, they'll show up more. It's a bit hard to tell in the video, but there are 3 different colors of icing on the girl's cupcake. While the cupcakes are drying, I can prepare the other half of the card bases by scoring the backs where the card will open. I use both 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch score tape to cover the entire surface of the flap. I set those aside since I'm still waiting for the embossing paste to dry on the card fronts. The animals and cupcakes are now dry, so I'll apply foam tape to the back of those pieces. The watercolored panels are also dry, so I can apply foam tape to those. I typically apply a huge amount of foam tape to these large watercolored panels so they lie nice and flat against the card base. Finally, the embossing paste is dry, so I can start to assemble both cards. Before adhering the animals and cupcakes to the front panel, I think about customizing the cards with the twins' names. In the end, I decide against it. The names would have covered up too much of the watercolor resist background, and I didn't want to overcrowd the cards with another element. I go ahead and adhere the animals and cupcakes to the cards. I prefer the colors of the boy's card, but I wanted to use the bright colors that the girl twin loves on her card. I felt like the cards were missing something, so I decided to add a bunch of sequins to coordinate with the colors on each card. These ones are by Teresa Collins and Pretty Pink Posh. That first big sequin ended up falling off the card somewhere between me finishing the video and photographing the cards. I didn't realize it till after I gave away the card, so I was bummed about it being missing in the photo. You'll have to imagine it being there. I think the sequins added the right finishing touch to these cards and helped draw the eye across the card. I love how they look nestled in the corners with the embossing paste. I applied the sequins to both cards in pretty much the exact same spots so they'd coordinate with each other, with a slight variation in colors and shapes. Now my cards are done. Please refer to the supply links below if you're interested in any of the products I used in this video. You can also visit my blog for stills and more information about my cards. Thanks so much for watching.